life changed after an injury, a spinal cord injury in 2015. I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and nothing stopped me from my injury. I used to play football, work out, hang out with friends. Now, since my injury and things has changed for me, they still haven't stopped the way, I wanted my life. I continue to work out. I continue to try to get better any way I can. This episode is really special to me because it shows the caregivers that I've had in my life. My mother, she was there, through the beginning of it, and she still continues to be here to this day. From the beginning, I can tell you, from helping me eat, helping me get ready in the morning, getting me to my therapies, making sure that, even when I'm down, she'll lift me up. This woman is special, and I just want to introduce somebody that really means a lot to me and has really been there since day one. So I just want to bring out my mother, Tanisha Gales. I just want to say thank you for everything you've done. We go back like 4 flats on the Cadillac. I wouldn't be here without you. From the bottom of my heart, we've been through a lot of things, and we cherish those moments. And as we cherish those moments, we can always go back and laugh at, what we've been through and how far you've came. Because even though, it was traumatizing to me and I had to change, you still had to change as well. As far as, my Dalen and Tia and Daddy, they still living in Louisiana, and you stopped everything and came and took care of me. And as a mother, you don't want anybody to be separated from their other kids or separated from family, period. But as for a mother and a loving mother, you did that. And I want to say I appreciate you. I thank you. I wouldn't have rolled this far without you. Love you.
Hi family, welcome back to the podcast, Life After Trauma, where we bring you inspiring stories of survivors. Today we have with us Miss Tish Gales. Thank you so much, Tish, for being here.
You're welcome, no problem.
So let's jump right into it, your son's story. Can you give us a little background on what happened and tell us a little bit about who you are and who you were before the accident?
Okay, well, I'm an educator. I'm a special education teacher, and before I moved to Georgia, I lived in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where I worked at the actual high school that my son graduated from. I had just gotten the job and had only been on the job for 6 weeks before his injury happened. It happened in September, and we had just started school. Previously before that, I worked at another high school for like 9 years. So I was fresh on the job, new on the job, and then my son played for Southern University in Baton Rouge, which is maybe about 10 minutes, give or take, from my house. And they were playing against the University of Georgia, which was one of the biggest games because they were HBCU playing against a SEC team. So they were so excited about this game. He was hyped up. The day before, he called me, was like, Mom, I need an ankle brace because I kind of twisted my ankle a little bit. So they were getting ready to leave on the buses, and I left my job, hurry up, go to CVS, go get him an ankle bracelet, drop him some snacks off on the bus, and then they head on to Georgia. Well, the game is going on, but my husband and I didn't go to the game because my son was like, Mom, I'm only playing on kickoff. Like, it doesn't make sense for you all to come all the way to Georgia and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, we'll stay home and watch the game. We'll just tailgate at home. So we were watching the game, actually, and it was on a kickoff return. And what happened was my son, Devon, when he went to hit the kicker, which is Marshall Morgan for University of Georgia, he went to hit, and when he went to hit, he hit with his head down. When he hit with his head down, the impact of the hit caused him to break his neck. He broke his C4 and C5, pinched his spinal cord, and he shattered his C6. So we were watching on television, it didn't show the hits on television. What happened was it went to commercial, and then when it came back from the commercial, my husband was like, "Up, somebody's down on the field." So we were looking, and I'm like, "That's that ankle brace that I bought." I said, "That's Devon," and he was like, "No, that's not Devon." He said, "That looks like Herb." Herb was Devon's roommate. He was 43. My son was 33. So all he saw was the three. So in the next instant, Herb is shown kneeling down on the side of Devon. I said, "I told you that's not Herb, that's Devon." So we waited a little while to see, because normally Devon was always a small kid, but he was always big in heart with football. So he knew he had to hit extra hard and do extra things in order to make his mark versus any the average football player. So once we found out it was Devon, then they called. We received a call from the head trainer at the University of Georgia, and he said, "We're headed to the emergency room to go and see what we can do, or run tests to make sure everything is okay." He said, "We'll give you a call once we get there." So of course, me, the mama, starts going in my head. I'm like, okay, I need to know right now. I need to know what's going on. So I then call the emergency room, speak with the nurse. The lady can't give me any information. She said, "I don't know." I said, "Okay, well, let me speak to somebody who can." So she got the registered nurse who was working in the ER at that time to give me a call. And my question to her, I was like, "Ma'am, I just need to know, do I need to head to Georgia?" And she said, "Yes, ma'am." From that point on, that's when I panicked, because I'm like, I don't know what to do, where to go. I didn't know any of that. But because the University of Georgia was so helpful with us, the guy called me back and he was like, "Hey," he said, "how fast can you get to the airport?" We lived 5 minutes away from the airport.
Okay.
They got us flights, got there, and from that point on, the University of Georgia just kind of rallied around us and just became our family away from home. Of course, Southern University supported him, but they were back in Baton Rouge, and we were stuck here. So we had to stay here until he
here
was
in
accepted.
Atlanta.
He was accepted into the Shepherd Center. So once he got to the Shepherd Center, we stayed at the Shepherd Center for 5 months before he was able to go home. He went home for a month, came back, and we got into the day program there. We stayed there almost another year. So I just had to quit my job, and I left my husband and kids back in Louisiana so that I can stay with my son.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
It's what we do as mothers.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely
the instinct
correct.
Kicks in.
Yes, ma'am.
And we go into fight or flight.
Absolutely.
And we always choose to fight.
Absolutely.
Amazing. So tell me this: what has been the toughest part of the recovery? What has been
the toughest part for me is watching him give 210% every day in everything that he did.
I have chills.
Doing it all, and at the end of the day, he looks and it's like, I'm no further than I was before. And for me, being the parent who's always able to fix everything that's broken, I've always been able to be there and do those things. But when I got to this point, it kind of took a toll on me, because I was not able to do that. I wasn't able to fix it. The first time we allowed my kids, my other two kids, I have two younger kids. The first time we allowed them to come and see him, they thought just like a regular broken arm. Like you can put a cast on it and he'll be fine. We'll go back home after that. My youngest son came back in and he was like, "Hey, Devon," so he threw the ball to him, football. Because that was life. Football was life with him. He threw the football one and he didn't move. So my son was like, "Dude, catch the ball. What are you waiting on? Catch the ball." So Devon didn't say anything. So I'm looking at him to see how he's going to react to it. So he waited. He threw it again. Devon didn't move. So Devon said, "Run it back again." So he threw it at him again. And when he did it, he just missed it. Because he had the ability to move his arms, but he just didn't have control of them to be able to stop it when he needed. So my son Dalen was like, "Dude, what is wrong with you? Why are you not catching this ball?"
Right.
Because they would play catch and do all these things before. And then on that last time, he said, "Go back over there." He said, "And run it back again." And that time when he did it like this, and he was able to catch it in his hand. So it was like the reality of that, it really set in with me, because not only did they not realize that this is a new normal for us. I had to put it in my mind that it was a new normal for us.
So, what is the age difference in between Devon and your other two kids?
Devon is now 30.
Okay.
My
But
youngest
then,
son,
at the time of the
accident,
accident,
21.
Wow.
He was 21 when this happened to him. He actually, he was 21 because he had a birthday while we were at the Shepherd Center in November. It happened to him September 26th. This year will be 9 years.
Wow.
And my youngest son was 12, and Tia was 8.
So how has that affected, or has it affected them? How has that changed who they are as his siblings?
To me, I think because he was always that big brother that on weekends, instead of him when he wasn't in football season, he would come home, he'd pick them up, take them bowling, take them to the movies, take them out to eat. He would do those types of things with them. So they were used to him spending that time. Now the roles reverse. And now they are taking him places and doing things with him.
Beautiful.
Like the two older brothers, of course, has that baby girl. She got them all wrapped around her finger, so therefore it's whatever she say.
Understandable.
That's what they do.
Absolutely, understandable.
Right.
So with your husband, how has that affected? Has it affected your husband? Does it show as much?
It has, and just not really a secret, but something that most people don't know. Devon is not my biological son. Devon is my stepson. When I met my husband, he had Devon. Devon was 3 years old.
Wow.
Yes, and Devon came to live with us when he turned 5, which is when I married his dad.
Father.
So yes, I've raised Devon
Absolutely.
from that point.
Absolutely,
From that
he's
point
your
on.
son.
So like most people don't even
No
realize
idea.
that, and they have no idea that he's not my biological son. So that kind of explains the gap in ages of kids. Because when I met his dad, he already had a son. So I had a ready-made family. I didn't have a need to want for children until later. So once I got used to that, 10 years later, then here I go. I'm like, okay. And then that's when we decided to have
amazing. I salute you.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Yes, ma'am.
It's just the mom.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of people would ask me, like, well, were you where? I'm like, no, because that was my kid. I never thought anything other than I needed to get to my baby at that point. And that's exactly what I did.
Wow. That's amazing. Again, I salute you. That's amazing. So we talked a little bit, or you mentioned prior, mental illness is so very important. Can you explain to me why that sits so near and dear to your heart for other caregivers and the world to know, about mental illness and life after trauma?
Right. Honestly, I never thought that I stressed. I never thought I stressed. I never thought I had any issues with mental health. I never thought that because it's very prominent in the black culture that we don't talk about it. We don't talk about that. What goes on in this house
stays in this house. Absolutely.
So therefore, it was something that I never even thought of up until at one point I thought I was having a heart attack. And my husband just happened to be there because we lived separated for the first 3 years because he stayed in Baton Rouge. I lived here in Atlanta with Devon. So he had just happened to be visiting, and I just kept telling him, like, something is wrong. I don't know what it is. I started feeling jittery, and it just started, I got nervous. I felt numb, and I'm like, I think I need to go to the emergency room. Got to the emergency room. They checked my blood pressure. Blood pressure was fine. And the guy told me, he said, well, I really think that it was a panic attack. I'm like, a panic attack? Like, I don't have no panic attack. I have no reason to be panicking. I'm just doing me and doing what I do.
Absolutely.
At the same time, not realizing what I do is go in and make it happen. I don't question it. That's who I am. That's what I do.
Absolutely.
So I felt like I only did that at that point in time. So I'm like, I'm not stressing. Like, I don't have nothing to stress over. Everything is good. God had provided for us in so many ways. The University of Georgia came through. They set up this fund for my kids, so we were able to live separately, so we were able to take care of our housing and things like that through the fund.
Amazing.
So I didn't have to work.
Wow.
I was off for 5 years, and at that time,
Wow.
I was able to take care of my son, and then eventually my kids started to migrate here year after year. The first year my daughter came, second year my son came, third year my husband came. So we was all the family after that third year. So I'm like, I get back to the stressing. So he said, well, what I'll do is I'll give you some medicine that's just kind of take the edge off a little bit. So I'm like, okay. So they prescribed me Zoloft. I'm like, okay. I think about it, and you hear all the time about antidepressants and things like that. And I kept telling the man, I'm like, sir, I'm not depressed.
Right.
Like, it's nothing wrong with me. I'm not depressed. Not knowing the whole entire time I was.
It was depression.
Absolutely. It was definitely depression. I think I've only had one moment that I needed to get away. Like, I felt like I just needed to get away because it felt like the walls were closing in on me.
Absolutely.
And I got in the car and I just left. I left. I had to try to keep myself together because I felt like if I allowed my kids to see me break, then they would break. Exactly. And my son, Devon, he paid attention to me more than anybody. And he would know if it was something wrong. At the same time, he felt as if he was a burden. Because then, like, I had to constantly reassure him that this is my job, love. This is who I am, and this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I don't know if the same situation happened with your son, but because of his paralysis, he lost his bowel and bladder control. Those are things that's private. When you have your 22, 21-year-old son and you're having to do things to him without his permission,
absolutely,
you know, that becomes an issue. So once we got over the hurdles of those, it was never an issue for him. He just didn't want me to have to do it.
Right.
Exactly. It was fine once, you know, the nurses and everybody was doing it, but he was like, I don't want my mama to have to be worried about doing these things for me. It wasn't the embarrassment of him having to do it, because he was just like, I know this is who I am. And I really thank God that Devon is the kid that he is. And I believe that all of these things happen for a reason. Like, he was chosen for this to happen to him, because that way he's never been angry. He's never been angry. He never asked why me.
Yeah.
Now, he would get frustrated.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to take that. He would get frustrated. I would get frustrated with him. He would get frustrated with me. I never forget one time he got frustrated and he didn't want to do something. I said, okay, well, if you think you could do it on your own, you do it. He lay right there on the floor. I left him there for about 30 minutes. And then I came back. I said, "You ready?"
It takes that.
So it takes some time for you to have
to walk away just for a minute to sort of
Absolutely.
regroup,
bring a little reality.
Yeah.
But in all of it, I was more worried about his mental health than my own, because I'm thinking, like, you know, you're 21 years old. You see your friends graduating from college, having families, having kids, you know, getting married, these things that you think you're no longer able to do. But see, when the doctor brought us to the Shepherd Center and he told us that there was a 50-50 chance that Devon would regain his ability to walk within the first 2 years, in my mind, I'm going with the 50% that he'll walk again.
Absolutely.
I don't care if it's 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. In my mind,
absolutely,
because I serve a God that will do
absolutely.
Yes. Don't tell me what he won't do.
I'm with you.
So I'm constantly going, I never once thought about that other 50%. And I had to instill that in him. Love, you're going to walk again. If you give God what he's asking you for, there's nothing that he's not going to do for you.
Absolutely.
And he was like, okay, you know, Mama, like, okay. I'm like, son, I just need you to believe that. Once you believe that, I'm like, this is going to take us places that we've never thought it would take us. And it has done that. But in the end, again, circling back around to mental health, because, baby, I could go on.
I'm sure. It's okay. We have time.
Taking it back to mental health, I spoke with someone at the Shepherd Center to get him a therapist. Of course, you know, again, like I go back, we think we don't need nobody to talk to. Why am I going to talk to a stranger and tell them my problems? What they want me to do? Write in journals? And what is that going to do for me?
Right.
So I talked him into going to, because I told him, I said, I need to go, because there's some things that I need to work through within myself. Because I didn't want him to feel guilty, which is what he felt, because now you stuck with having to take care of a son that can no longer walk.
Been there.
You're having to bathe me. You're having to do all of these things. I took you away from my other siblings. I took you away from my father, from what we knew. And we moved here not knowing a soul.
Wow.
Not one person did we
Wow.
know here in the state of Georgia. So when he went to the therapist, you know, he was like, Mom, I just don't think that lady is, I don't think it's working, because she asking me all these questions, and you know, so he didn't think it was working. I went and talked to baby. By the time I finished talking, she was crying.
I'm sure.
Said,
I've been there.
I said, now you want to switch seats
Right.
for me to sit on the sofa and you sit right there? But it was just like, I felt like I had it all together. And in reality, I didn't.
Right.
I didn't have it together. So when it comes down to caretaking, like, you have to put everything else aside, how you feel, what you want to do, and you have to make sure that other person is getting they're getting what they need. And by doing that, that put my feelings and the way I was able to process things, it put it on the back burner. I couldn't think about how I feel, like what I want to do at this point, or because teaching it was so funny. My kids started telling me, Mama, you need to get a job. Like, you need to go back to work, because I was making every moment a teachable moment.
Oh, yeah.
A teachable moment that was like, okay, we get money. I was like, okay, now you count that money back. How much is that? And it was like, no, ma'am. No, you need to go back to work. So I never thought that it was affecting me until after I had the conversation with the lady, and she was like, ma'am, like, she said this, and she said, I applaud you for what you're doing. She said, but at the same time, you still need somebody to talk to. And I'm like, okay, you know, I'll do that. But as time went on, didn't take the time to go back and do it. Do I think I need to be sitting on somebody's sofa today? Absolutely correct. But again, because I am who I am, I never prioritize myself. It's always about somebody else. So I'm as the caretaker for the first 5 years, I did it all by myself. I did everything. We were living in a home that was not handicap accessible. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home. His wheelchair couldn't fit in the bathroom. So I had to physically pick him up
And
put him through the bathroom, put him on the toilet, take him off the toilet, put him in the tub to give him a bath, pick him up out of the tub, put him back on the toilet, pick him up from the toilet, and put him back in the chair. And then roll on the carpet to get him back into the bedroom that was barely wide enough for him to fit through with his wheelchair. And I did that for 2 years straight. Never complained. He never complained.
Right.
We did what we had to do to make
so
it happen.
natural.
Absolutely correct.
It comes so natural. Let me ask you this. How long did it take for you to seek help before you realized that I need to talk to somebody?
At first, I still wasn't grasping the fact that I needed to talk to somebody. I was thinking, I just need another body. I need more help. Because my kids were helping me. They would help me to get him in and out the car. They were helping me to do these things, helping get him in the bed. And at the end of the day, I'm feeling guiltier, because I'm like, my kids can't enjoy themselves because they having to help me take care of my other kid. So I said, okay, well, let me see if I can find a caretaker, somebody who can come in and help me. Again, there go the guilt, because I'm like, why should I have to pay somebody to take care of my kid? I'm not working. I should be able to do this all on my own. But in reality, I realized that I needed a break. I needed a break. I just needed some time to where I can sit in a room and just sit there and breathe. Don't hear no voices, don't hear nothing. All I wanted to do was just sit there. Then I picked up on reading. I started reading books. I would just read anything to get my mind away from that. Baby, in that first month, I think I had read maybe 50 books.
Wow.
And I realized, I'm like, okay, this is my peace. That's the only way I could find just a little bit of peace. So I would sit there and read any type of book. I just sit there and read, and I just continued to do that. So I'm like, now I have my little bit of peace. Maybe I can continue. Still not worried about sitting there talking to nobody. I got with an agency. The agency came in, and they would bring somebody in. So it's so hard to find good help. I had young ones coming in. They was crushing on my kid.
Yes.
I'm like, I can't trust you to clean my child and not know what you're doing to him.
Right.
Like I can't
Absolutely.
do that. Then I had the older people who couldn't pick him up, so I was still having to go
assist. It's like, why am I paying you and I have to do it too?
Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
So it was quite a challenge for me to try to find the right person to get. And then once I did, the University of Georgia did this big fundraiser to build for Devon. They wanted to build us a handicap accessible home. Then that left me stressed because I had to find somewhere to do that. I liked where we were. We were in Gwinnett. So I'm like, okay, I like Gwinnett. Let's stay here. Let's find. There's no room for anything in Gwinnett.
Oh, wow.
And for the small spaces or pieces of land, you was paying $300,000, and I'm like, that's what I want to pay for the house. Like, I don't want to buy
for the land.
Yeah,
right.
So that wasn't going well until one person called and they said, Tish, we want you to come and see. We have some property in Jackson County. So I was like, Jackson County? I don't know what it is. So when we rode up there, I was like, this is far. Like, I don't want to be away from the city. I don't want to be this far away from the city. It's straight country. And I'm like, okay. So we get there, have the meeting with the guy. And he said, well, I got some lots here that I wanted you to look at. So I'm like, okay. So he said, well, come on and get in the car. I'm going to take you around and let you see. So I go up in there looking like country clubs, like stuff. I'm like, okay. So he'd take me to all the different places. Then we come back in, and it was crazy because he picked Devon. He took Devon. He picked him up, put him in his truck. He said, can you teach me how to handle him? So I'm like, okay, yeah, I can
love
do that.
to hear that.
What? Yes.
When people say, can you teach me how to help you?
Absolutely. So I showed him what to do. We got in the car, rode around, came back. He got him out. And we sitting around the table, just going outside. I said, okay. I said, well, can you tell me, like, how much are the lots? What's the price for this one? Because I'm like, the biggest one, I'm sure is the one I'm going to want because it's the biggest one. So he said, well, don't worry about the price. He said, let's just go ahead on and see which one you want. I say, sir, if you know my husband, I need to find out the price. Because my husband was still in Baton Rouge at the time. He wasn't here. So he said, don't worry about the price. Show me which one you want. So I'm like, okay. Thinking, well, if I show you what I want, maybe he gonna give me a discounted price from what it's really wrong. I said, okay, how about this one? Going for the Gusto. He said, that's the one you want? He said, yes. It was lot 7. I said, okay. He said, okay, well, let's go ahead on and we'll get the paperwork together and we'll do. I said, wait a minute. I said, you still hadn't told me
the price.
How much this costs, because I'm going to have to call my husband and say, hey, we just purchased a piece of property for to build a home on. He said, don't worry about the price because it's nothing. I said, run that back for me again. I'm like, say it again. He said, I'm giving you the property. Girl, when I tell you blessings on top of blessings on top of blessings on top of blessings is what we received. Not only did he give us the property, they built the home free of charge. They built the home on volunteers. People volunteered. They volunteered their time. Wow. They volunteered the everything in the house. We had to pay for nothing. All we had to do was walk in, and that was it. They made it handicap accessible so that Devon would be able to get around and live an easier life, to help me, help him, because they had been with us through the struggle. They saw the things that I was struggling with. They were trying to help me to see. And God worked it out, baby, to where I walked in on a blessing, which was a handicap accessible home. I had two master suites on the bottom floor, one for me, one for my son, 3 bedrooms upstairs, guest room, bedroom for each one of my kids. My husband came and moved the following year, and we moved into their home in Jackson County, July of 2019, and I've been there ever since. The superintendent came from the district. He came over and he was like, I know that you were working. If you ever want a job again, let me know. Devon said, I want to coach. He said, come on over. He allowed Devon to be a coach at the school, as well as the following year, after I got acclimated to everything, they hired me right there on the spot to Jackson County. And we've been flourishing ever since then.
Wow. So
Yes,
you
ma'am.
really understand how much of a blessing that is.
Absolutely.
And that's so rare.
Absolutely correct.
It's so very rare because for the most part of people that I interact with that's experiencing life after trauma, the help is very little.
Absolutely.
Even for myself.
Absolutely.
The help is spread so thin that it's an additional struggle to survive on the top of dealing with
with the
life
struggle.
after trauma.
Absolutely.
Having a total lifestyle change, but to have someone to come in and to give you every tool that you need is amazing.
Absolutely correct.
And I say this and I think this often when other people experience things like this and I hear it and I'm saying like kudos because I know in our time, in my time, what God has for me is for me.
Absolutely correct.
And I just want to say like that's amazing and I'm so happy that it happened for you and I just know that when it's time for it to happen, things to happen for others, it will definitely happen. You have to go through the storm and you definitely went through a storm.
Definitely.
A lot different than the average person because this type of trauma, he's not the only one that's experienced like that, things like that, but it's so rare that they survive.
Absolutely.
For this long. Number one, healthy,
Yep.
happy, understanding the mental of it, which is the most important because for me, keeping my son's mental strong is my number one goal.
Absolutely.
It affects him mostly. Instagram, TikTok, seeing, as you said, everyone that's going on with their life at this age, they're having kids, and you know the cars they post. We see everything, and his mental is the desire to keep his mental strong. So I salute you for recognizing and realizing that that is so very important, and we need to make sure that other caregivers understand not only their mental but ours also, yours.
Absolutely.
You know, because it's wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
It's been a time, but at the end of the day, like you said, we have been so blessed to have people rally around us to help because they saw the struggle. Even my brother was living in Louisiana at the time, and he came over and visited. And once he came there, my sister-in-law said he cried the whole flight back because he didn't realize what I was going through until he was able to see it.
Absolutely.
They moved the following month. Moved to Georgia.
Wow.
Absolutely. He was like, I have to be there to help my sister. Because we were here alone. We didn't know anybody. The only people we knew was the people we met throughout his journey at the Shepherd Center.
Wow. And isn't it amazing how strangers
Absolutely
show up?
Yes, ma'am.
The people that you've never met.
Absolutely.
And you look for the ones that you've known have been there all
Had
of
family
their life.
had never
and
come to visit.
And you would, and
all they saw was the glitz and glamour.
Yep. And that's all
the
they
things
see.
that people were doing. So they was like, oh, they fine. They don't need us. They did.
Yep. And we need them more than they can ever imagine. And they don't have to bring anything.
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
just the comfort of saying, I'm here for you.
Yep. That's all I needed. That was
yeah.
it. That was all I needed.
So let me ask you, we've spoken about mental illness. How long did it take before you actually reached out?
It was I was in Jackson County at the time when I finally did reach out to
After
someone.
you built the house, so years.
And it really just happened by accident. I was going to another interview. We were meeting, and it's crazy, but we were meeting. It was a radio show. Wanted to do a segment on Devon, and we met at the Dairy Queen. We were there at the Dairy Queen, and there was this lady that came up to my son, and she was like, "Hey, how you doing? My name is so and so. I was just coming." She said, "Is this your sister?" He said, "No, that's my mama." I said, "Oh yeah, sister, yeah." So it was funny because we just started talking to each other, and then we were able to build a relationship because we continued. For me to later on find out that she specialized in mental health.
Oh wow.
So I was able to use her to my benefit because not only did she befriend me, we became friends, but I was able to actually release some of the things, and she was a listening ear for me. I never went to a professional.
Oh, wow.
Never went to sit on another sofa. I was able to find that in her, and she was also a minister. So that helped me to be able to
God
get through.
sent who you needed.
Absolutely correct. It helped me to be able to do that. Now, do I still think that there are some things that I probably should be on the sofa for? Yes, I do, because there's a lot of things that I haven't unpacked in that little bit of time that we were there for those 5, or the time that I was there by myself. Because not only did I feel alone, I knew that everybody couldn't just leave their lives and come and do what I did.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they couldn't do that. But at the same time, did I have some resentment because I was the one that did it? Definitely. Would I ever mention that and say that to my kid? Never. I would never say that to him, because I never want him to feel that burden. My job was to keep him uplifted.
Absolutely.
So I did that. I tried my best to make sure he was comfortable. Anything he needed, he thought he needed,
anything
he wanted, whatever it was, I made that happen. You know, even if I had to go out and talk to this person, that person. But because we surrounded ourselves with people like us, and when I say people like us, I mean people who wanted to help continue uplifting him. Like I never was surrounded by anybody who was like pulling us down or saying, but you don't need to do that. You know, negativity. We stayed with somebody who I'm like, if you can't bring and lift me up, then you can't be in my space. Yeah, I don't need you in my space. And I had to learn that from other people, from like all of my I just say my friends in the ministry, my prayer circle, people like that who tried to help keep me uplifted, helped me to in fact keep Devon uplifted. Did he ever have bad days? Absolutely correct, he did. But in that time, that's when Mama comes on in, and I'm like, look, son, you know, we here for a reason.
Period.
Everything happens for a reason. So when it came to his mental health, I did get somebody else for him to talk to.
How long?
Just recently, he started talking to someone, because he's at the point now to where he has a girlfriend. You know, he wants to move on beyond that. He wants to propose and then have a family. But in his mind, what does it look like to leave my family now? Because I've been with them all of my life. He said he make a joke, when I tried to leave and go to college, I got stuck right back and got pushed right back with you.
Same thing.
Right. So
like,
now,
I'm back.
What is that going to look like moving forward? Because I really believe that he's afraid, you know, because he is the unknown. You know, what if I get out there and this girl that I call myself in love with, she doesn't treat me like my mother. She doesn't do the things. And I told him, I said, there's a difference, son. I said, it's going to be different.
It's going to be different.
If she becomes your wife, then she's going to be the lady in your life. I have to step back and allow her to do her part in your life, and you have to be the husband. You know, so we had to have those conversations. And I'm like, now, you don't have me calling me mom. I'm like, that's not going to work anymore, baby. And if you're ready for that, I'm all for it if that's what you're ready for. Now, it's going to take me a while to get used to it. Yes, I'm going to get on her nerves, because I need to make sure you're doing my baby right, you know. So I think that he's trying to get beyond that. He's trying to move beyond the trauma, because every time people see him, and it was so crazy, they were, oh, you that kid that was got hurt playing in the football game, and you that kid, and I'm like, sometimes, you know, that makes him relive all of that. Like, I'm more than just that kid that got hurt in the football game. Like, now I'm triumphing. I'm doing things now that I wasn't able to do 2 years ago, you know, and I'm continuing. Like, when he was coaching at Jefferson, he was there, and he would go to practice with the kids, and he'd be on the sideline while they practicing. He on the sideline practicing. He's out of that wheelchair on the ground doing push-ups.
Wow.
He's doing sit-ups. He's doing whatever it takes just to show them. And it was crazy.
Wow.
One of the kids who's now a player at University of Georgia, he would always say, anytime I had a bad day, he said, I would look at the sideline and see my coach. He say, and if I see my coach can do it, it's nothing wrong with me doing it. He's saying that stuck with him for a long time, and it's caused him to get, you know, to where he is now. And I told him, I said, love, you need to keep that. Once you go to that next level, keep that same mindset. Absolutely correct. Keep that, and it's going to take you where you need to be.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about, in discussing mental illness, what message do you have for others that's going through this right now? As far as when do you suggest, is there a time frame that you think that someone needs to seek help? Should it be immediately? Should it be a time? And what message do you have for other caregivers out here that's needing to know, how did you do it? On your bad days, did you feel guilty? Why did you feel guilty? And what did you do when you felt guilty?
Right. One thing that I would definitely say is that create an environment that's conducive to uplifting you. Because when you do that, then at any point in time, if you feel guilty, if you feeling like it's the end of the world, whatever it is, if you surround yourself around positive energy, positive people who want to uplift you, if it's 5 o'clock in the morning and you feeling like you don't want to be bothered, you can reach on the phone and call that person. They'll pray with you.
Absolutely.
They'll come sit with you.
Absolutely.
They'll ride with you. Surround yourself.
You have to have a community.
Absolutely, with a positive community. And if you do that, I believe all is possible. Of course, you definitely got to keep God first in all of that.
Yes.
And while doing that, you just make sure you surround yourself with some positive people. Get yourself a good support system. Support system is something, I didn't have an immediate support system because it was just me. But then as I got to know people, and I had to learn how to open myself up because my pride, I was there and I didn't want to accept help from other people.
Me, same way.
It took a while. It took a good while before I was able to accept that. It took a young lady to tell me, Tish, I need you to stop being a blessing blocker. And I was like, I ain't blocking nobody blessings.
Right.
Like, what are you talking? Like, denial. I was truly in denial with a lot of things, and it took for me to talk about it before I realized that, like, what Tish, you were? Like, you did say that. She said, I'm trying to bless you. I want to bless you. So many other people want to bless you, but you won't allow us to do that. Because I'd be like, no, I got it. I'm fine. I'm good. No, I won't do that. It was so chaotic at the Shepherd Center when Devon first got there. We needed security because there was so many people trying to pour in, trying to come and check on him. See, I filled the walls of the room with cards from people. We broke the printer at the first hospital because people were sending in messages and well wishes, and they couldn't print them fast enough. So I said, baby, don't even worry about printing. Just let it go. Just don't do it. I have binders of cards and things from people that wanted to help us. And me, being that same, I'm like, well, thank you, but I'm good. I'm good. Don't worry about it. Until I started allowing people to bless me is when I was able to really see the fruits of my own labor. Because I know as an educator, I gave everything to all of my kids, my students. Anything they wanted, they needed, I tried to help them. I went above and beyond. To my husband's like, Tish, when you leave that campus, you leave all of that there. You can't bring that home with you and bring those kids home. Girl, you know me, I was feeding the kids. I was dressing them. I was doing it all because I felt like that's what I had to do. And it's who I am. So at that point, I'm looking at them like, well, no, I'm good. I don't need no help. Everybody needs help. Everybody needs help at some point in time. And that's another thing that I would say to caregivers. Allow other people to bless you. Don't be a blessing blocker like I was. Allow them to help you. Whether it's the small stuff, the big stuff, whatever it is. You say yes, God gonna open those doors for you to get the help that you need. It just took me a little bit longer because, again, like I said, the guilt part of it, of me getting somebody else to time, I'm like, that's my kid. Let me do it. I can do that. Until I was able to allow somebody to help me with that, it really did, like, it really messed up my mental. And I didn't think about it like that because, again, the stigma of we don't go sit on the couch. We don't talk to therapists. You handle your own business, or you pray and you let God handle it. That's sometimes God will handle it, but he'll give you the sense to say, I'm sending somebody to you so that you can do that. I'm sending somebody to help you in that situation. Don't block that. I may not can come sit on the side of you and do it for you, but I'm going to send somebody who can.
Right.
And at that point in time, I just had to learn how to do that. So that would be something that I would send out to other caregivers. Don't be afraid to ask for help. There's people who are willing to help you, but you have to present yourself as being acceptable, to be able to accept what somebody is giving you. I was putting the walls up, and I was like, I'm the mama, I got this, I can, I can do it. Until I realized, no, you really can't do it all on your own.
Right. But there are some people that have to do it all on their own. And I know so many of my followers and cyber family, as I call them, some people have these situations. There's not a community. That's the reason for me building Operation Refresh, the Refresh Gym, because everyone doesn't have a community. Everyone doesn't have the employers. Everyone doesn't have family. Some people have nobody.
Right.
Some moms are actually in this on their own that are saying, where is the help? Where's the community? Where are the people? What would you say to the Christies, people like that have no one? What advice would you give for them to keep pushing? Because you and I both know that it's hard. And she tells me, well, you have a husband. I don't. You have a daughter to help you. I don't. So what do you say to people that have no one else? What advice could you give to them?
One thing the best advice is what I can say is make sure you have your relationship good with God, because He is the one and only person that can help you in that situation. A lot of people, they talk about religion, or they'll say, well, it's not always about God can't do this or God. Baby, look.
Period.
I am a living witness. And I say all the time that I thank God for my grandmother, because my mother worked 4 jobs to try to provide for me and my brother. And when she did all of those things, she wasn't always present in the home, but my grandmother was. My grandmother was that one that made us go to church on Sunday, mission on Monday, prayer meeting on Tuesday, Bible study on Wednesday, choir rehearsal on Thursday. You might get Friday and Saturday off, but Sunday morning, Sunday school, and it's starting all over again. At that time, I didn't understand why. I'm like, oh my God, like we always, my friends couldn't come spend the night on Saturdays unless they was going to church with us on Sundays.
Absolutely.
Never in my life did I realize that she set a foundation for me that I would use later on in life. And had I not had that foundation,
it would be different.
I don't know how it would have turned out, especially with this situation. During this situation, 2015 September, I lost my grandmother April of 2016. The day we buried my grandmother, my uncle passed, her son. So my grandfather buried his wife and his son within a 7-day span. Wow. Turned my world upside down. But at the end of the day, I was able to speak at my grandmother's funeral and tell them of the goodness of what she had instilled in me and how that helped me in my situation and what I'm in now. Had I not had that, I don't know how I would have made it. So in the end, for anybody who feels like they have nobody, it is just me, baby. I'm gonna go back to Louisiana, baby. That's the one and only. Yeah. He is the one and only that can help you. Is it gonna be hard? Yes, absolutely. Is it gonna seem like you'll never get a break, like you can never get ahead, like nobody is there for you? Yes, you're gonna have those moments, but at that time, that's when it's called for you to just lean on what you know, lean on God. You have to. I tried to instill that in Devon. I kept saying, love, this didn't happen to you by mistake. You were chosen for this. Absolutely. You were chosen for this. I said, you look at your platform now. You're able to reach so many people. Even the kids that he's working with now at that elementary school, those kids look up to him. When they see him coming, they run into him. I'm like, you're an inspiration. Absolutely. And he asked me, he was like, Mama, why me? Why do you think I was chosen to be the one? If I said, why not you? Why not? Absolutely. So for those who don't have that circle, I believe in creating those opportunities. I want to be the person to say, let me help you. Right. I know what it's like to not have help. Let me help you. Show me what I can do to help you. And if I can't help you, let me try to find somebody.
Resources.
Yeah, find the resources that I can, because I know what it's like to be by yourself and feel like you have nobody. Even though I had a whole family, had a husband, had all of that. Right. But I still
God
felt...
He still took you
Yes, ma'am.
and put you in a different location.
Yes, ma'am.
Away from all of that.
Absolutely.
And I felt like we were here in Atlanta. My son's accident happened in California. So he picked us up and took us away from everything that was
you knew,
that was comfortable.
Yes, ma'am.
From everyone that we felt like would have rallied around us. And I was thinking like, well, God, you took us from all of our, sitting in the hospital for all that time with, it was COVID, not having visitors and, FaceTime, which to me at the time, it wasn't enough.
Right.
So I thought, but God was showing me then like, you got what it needs. I'm showing you don't need them.
Absolutely.
I'm all that you need. And I tell that to my cyber family, people that's contacted me after this accident, with my son, that he's really all that you need. And if there's still a struggle, I think it's because of your relationship with God.
Absolutely.
If it's that big of a struggle where you feel like, oh, I have no one, because you're looking for it in people.
And
you cannot lean on people.
Absolutely.
You have
They'll
to lean
fail you
on
every
God,
time.
and God will put the people that you need
In place.
for you to use them, because He's working with you through people.
Say
so
that.
wait
Yes,
for
ma'am.
God to send you people, but you have to have that relationship
Absolutely
with God
correct.
first.
Absolutely.
And as long as you don't, you got to realize, like, why is it still a challenge? First question, what's my relationship like with Him?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just like you said, same thing happened with us. He took us away from everything that was comfortable and put us in an uncomfortable position to see if we would lean on Him. And because I did, it has caused me to receive so many blessings, things that I never thought I would be at play. It's taken me places, and I've met people that I never thought I would have met. I've done things that I never thought I would have been doing. I've always worked, so I never had to depend on anybody.
Right.
It made me have to depend on other people.
Absolutely.
So I had so many lessons to learn in that amount of time. I'm just grateful to God that He opened my eyes enough so that I can learn and be able to help, not only be that beacon of light for my kids, because they see how hard you going for your older brother. And they know that that's not my biological child. Did that ever matter to them? No. Right. None of that. That never mattered to any of us. But at the same time, I had to set the example, or set the standards for how I would want my children to treat other people. Regardless of who they are, what they did, I had to set the example and say, this is what you do, and how to rise over triumph. Tragedy over triumph, that is something that it stuck with me for a long time when we first got here, because people would always say that. They'd be like, they didn't want to call it an accident. They didn't want to call it. I said it was tragedy over triumph over tragedy is what it was. I said, because he was able to come up out of that with his life. The fact that he can't walk does not matter, because he will walk.
Absolutely,
again. He will definitely do that again. Whether it's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever it is, he's going to do it. And I believe that with all my heart.
Amazing. I believe too. So let me ask you one last thing. How has this accident changed you? In closing, how has this accident changed you, for better or for worse? And what would you say you've learned most since the change?
I think that I have grown as a person, as a woman, as a mother, as just a friend, a wife. I've learned how to do things. I've learned that it's okay to be uncomfortable. If you get too comfortable, then it's showing no growth.
Absolutely.
So if you're uncomfortable, obviously something is stirring up in there. Something is going to happen. And I just learned that that's okay. It's okay for you to be uncomfortable in whatever the situation may be. I've also grown as a person because because he took me away from my comfortable place and put me in an uncomfortable position, I had to learn how to deal with adversity. I had to learn how that you are bigger than this. You are not here by mistake. Everything happens for a reason. And I had to sit back and, I thought about it. I'm like, well, My husband is here, my kids are there, I'm over here by myself. I never once did I think about my safety. I never thought. I just trust in God that He would take care of us. And that's why I'm like, we in the city, we in the middle, we're in Atlantic Station at first. So I'm like, okay, it's fast cars going everywhere. I'm like, I don't know. I come from Baton Rouge, straight in the country, where you know your neighbors, everybody in the neighborhood. It was a total shift for me. And I just had to learn how to adjust to my new normal, because that's what it became, a new normal for me. I no longer do the things. I started being aware of things that I never would have been aware of before this happened. Just a simple fact of somebody parking in a handicapped parking spot. Oh my God. Absolutely. Did I park in handicapped parking spots before this happened with my kid? Of course I did. But now when I see somebody, I understand. I'm like, ma'am, like you getting out and you walking into the store. My baby can't do that. Absolutely. Can you get, it's awareness. I was able to become aware of things that I wasn't before, and I can be grateful for the uncomfortable.
Yeah, I totally understand. I would like to thank you so very much for taking time of your schedule to come and speak with us and to educate and to bring awareness on mental illness. Right. This episode is on caregivers. Right. And I'm excited for what you guys have coming. Right. I'm excited to know, and I'm waiting for you to tell me, hey, he's standing up.
Absolutely
I have faith, and tell him that we said we love him at Operation Refresh, and to keep the faith. And, to failure's not an option. Not faith without work is dead. There it is. Make sure he understands that nobody owes him anything. Absolutely. And for him to continue to keep striving, because we are rallying behind him. And you have a new family at Operation Refresh. And we're always here for you guys. And thank you so very much for coming.
Thank you so very much. And I just want to say I appreciate you for using your platform to be able to reach out to others. Because had I seen something like this when this first happened with my son, it may have been something that turned out differently. And for you to take the time out to do something like this, we don't normally see things like this. Now podcasts, they talking about any and every other thing, but this is something that somebody can actually benefit from. Necessary. It's definitely necessary. We have no idea
how often this happens.
Absolutely.
Because the stories are untold. Because the family is, the person is home in the wheelchair or in the hospital bed, and then we just forget about it. Absolutely. But that's not the case. We're not forgetting about you, Tish. We're not forgetting about Divine.
Thank you.
Yes, we will never thank you again so much for coming. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
This episode of Life After Trauma, the Caregiver Edition, continues. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're so excited about what we have to come. We love you, and good night.